Hello, and welcome to Fairy Tale Tarot with Katie Weaver. We're going to pull a card for the full moon. Of course, tomorrow is the cord moon on the 2nd of September, and we do this every month. I'm going to pull a card from the Fairy Tale Tarot and read you the fairy tale, and then we'll talk about how it fits into the full moon this month. So I've already pulled the card. This is the deck, by the way, if you're interested, by Lisa Hunt. It's a very good one. It's fun. All right, so the card itself is the Entrapment card. It's a major arcana card. The fairy tale is Rapunzel. I think we've all heard Rapunzel, though I am excited to see what her take is, because sometimes the fairy tales as written are different than the way I have heard them. So we'll see what she says. So this is a German fairy tale. The keywords are being stuck, suspension, and transition. Now, remember that we're reading this and thinking about it in the scope of what's coming for the next couple of weeks. So when I'm talking about the full moon, I'm talking about the whole full moon cycle, starting tomorrow and then moving clear into the new moon. So let's read the story. Once upon a time, there was a husband and wife who were expecting a child. They had a window overlooking a sorceress's garden that abounded with rampion. The wife craved it and began to wither in her longing for the vegetable. Worrying about his wife, the husband agreed to climb a high wall that surrounded the garden to retrieve a handful of the plant. The woman devoured the harvest and demanded more. Once again, the husband crept into the garden, but this time the sorceress was waiting for the vegetable thief. Seeing how terrified he was, she encouraged the man to help himself to the rampion, but in exchange, he would have to hand over his child to her upon its birth. The man, who was shaking from head to toe, hastily agreed. He then collected the vegetable and ran home. Seems like a fitting crime. You steal a vegetable and you have to give up your child. Wow. Okay, fairy tales. The parents cried as the sorceress fled with their baby girl upon her birth, but there was nothing they could do. The sorceress named the baby Rapunzel after the rampion plant and watched her grow into a beautiful child. She had long, long hair that shone like spun gold. When she turned 12, the sorceress locked her up in a tower that had neither door nor stair to the top. She would visit the girl through the lone window by calling from below, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." The young girl would obediently loosen her braid, tie her tresses onto a long hook, and allow the rope-like hair to tumble out the window. One day, a prince was traveling through the forest, and he heard beautiful singing emanating from the tower. Of course, beautiful and a good singer. Some people do have it all. He was transfixed by Rapunzel's voice and instantly fell in love with her. But try as he might, he could not find a door that would lead him to the enchanting voice. Then one day the prince spied the sorceress climbing the tower using Rapunzel's hair. After the sorceress had climbed back down and left, the prince disguised his voice and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." She automatically let her hair tumble down to the stranger and was quite surprised when a prince climbed in through her window. That's not creepy at all, right? A stranger disguising their voice, sneaking into your house because they think they're in love with you and they've never even met you. All right, fairy tales. We'll roll with it. Okay. But Rapunzel's initial fright soon turned into intrigue, for the prince was loving and kind and handsome. They continued to meet until Rapunzel unwittingly asked the sorceress, "Why are you so much heavier than the prince?" Fat shaming the sorceress. That cannot end well. The sorceress was enraged, you think? Despite all her efforts to shelter the girl from the outside, she had been tricked. As a punishment, she cut off Rapunzel's hair and banished her to the desert. The sorceress then wrapped the hair around the hook and allowed the returning prince to climb up to her. When the prince made it to the top, the seething sorceress confronted him. In a panic, the prince jumped out the tower and landed on treacherous thorns that pierced him blind. He escaped and wandered desperate through the dense woods in search of Rapunzel. After many years, he stumbled into the very desert where Rapunzel had been exiled. When he heard her voice, he ran to her. Rapunzel, recognizing the prince, embraced him and wept for joy. The tears fell onto his injured eyes and fully restored his sight. Because that's what tears do. They're magical, at least in fairy tales. They returned to the prince's kingdom, where, you've probably already guessed it, they lived happily ever after. All right, so let's break it down. So, symbols and meaning, according to the author. I'm going to show you the card. Give you a really good look here. Okay. The tower shelters Rapunzel from outside influences. Towers have phallic connotations, contrasting with the intended preservation of purity. Yes, lock her in a phallus to avoid her, getting the phallus. Got it. Okay. The creeping vines are growing into the window, symbolizing passion, subconscious desires beckoning to the maiden to emerge from the safety of the fortress. The window reflects the inner workings of the soul. The hair is the life force. The unraveling tresses express the desire for freedom. The red flower symbolizes Rapunzel's deep-seated desires and unrealized passions. She is unaware that it is within her grasp and reach. The green pasture beyond reflects the potential for awakening. The owl symbolizes wisdom and is perched above the dark wood full of unknowns. The birds in the sky are free spirits flying beyond the restricted planes of consciousness. The castle in the distance represents the wholeness and the idea of happily ever after. The author says it is important not to get stuck in a situation that will inhibit growth. We may have to sacrifice the comforts of the familiar in exchange for new opportunities. Rapunzel illustrates the transitions of life that may require us to break the confines of prolonged inactivity. All right, so what does that mean for us? Well, I have a few thoughts about it. Being locked in the tower, I feel like, is being locked into belief systems. And I feel like this full moon is going to give us an opportunity to shed some of them. We are weary. We're tired. We are sick of fighting. We're sick of being told off. We're sick of not having, daring to have an opinion without offending other people. We're tired, right? And for that reason, a lot of people have shut their mouths, and that's okay. You don't have to be on the front lines marching. Not everybody is going to do that, but you do have to use critical thinking skills. You do have to come out of the darkness and shine a flashlight on your beliefs right now, every single one of us, and examine what your biases are, what your beliefs are, and why. You have to examine every piece of information that's presented to you and make a decision about whether or not this is true. And I feel like Rapunzel's teaching us that right now. The prince having his eyes poked out, to me, that is a real symbol of us being in the dark, being unable to see, and being asked to dig deeper, being asked to dig deeper, and able to be able to see what is true for us and for our families. I feel like her healing him is another big message here, because we all need some healing. We are bone tired right now. Our energy can't take much more of what we're experiencing in the world. And right now, we're being asked to be really, really wise about what we think, about what we say, about what we present to the world. And I think that Rapunzel is asking us to do that. I feel like this is a good illustration of that. And lastly, to being locked in a tower. So many of us, from the time quarantine started to now, have been locked in a tower of sorts, whether a financial one, whether it's, being locked in your home and, the social distancing aspect of it, or maybe it's just being locked in your own thoughts. But we've been in a tower for a while now, and maybe it is time for us to find a way to climb out safely and in a smart way. But I anticipate here in the next 2 weeks, we will see a lot of people adjusting their lives, adjusting the way they're spending their time, adjusting perhaps jobs and relationships, adjusting the people that they're listening to, or the media or social media that they're consuming. We need a change. We're worn out. We can't take any more of the negativity. We can't take any more of the onslaught that we're getting from all directions. So let's, you know, let's make like Rapunzel, I think, and allow ourselves to get out of the tower. This is an important time. It's a really important time in our history for all of us. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what side you're on, or if you're on no side, or it doesn't matter to me at all. What matters to me is that we are finding ways to protect our own mental health, that we're finding ways to nourish our spirits and our souls, and that we're finding ways to take a step back from the thing that is wearing us out right now. So it is my hope and wish that this full moon will bring that to you, that you'll be able to have that reprieve. And until next time, this has been Fairy Tale Tarot with Katie Weaver. Take care.